Bill Tilford is here today to talk about Venezuela.
We got that and more today on The Undercurrent. Good morning in Chicago and Arkansas. And everywhere else.
And everywhere else. Good to see everybody. Good to see you, Uncle Warren.
You say that. You know what I feel like? I feel like this guy. I feel like this is a callback from Halloween, by the way. That was well fun. That's my friend. How you doing, Billy? I got an eyeball on my teeth. See? Oh no, Billy. Billy, you drunk sailor. I can't take him anywhere.
No.
It's Wednesday. It's December 10th. Like you said, we've got Bill Tilford here to talk about Venezuela today, coming up shortly.
He's been on Civically Minded a few times. Great shows, great conversations. He's got a real interesting perspective on things. So we'll have him on to talk in a little bit about Venezuela. He's got some stuff that I didn't know about. So there we are.
I was going to say, and he's got stuff that I didn't know about, but that's not really saying much. That's
well,
why, that's why I do this show, because I don't know any better. Well, time for the riptide. Time to rip off these headlines like a bandage off of a sore wound.
Indeed. So here we go. Yeah, Chernobyl.
It would help if I actually added the things. There's no news today, folks. Have a great day. We'll see you next week. Bye. Hang on a second here. That's all right. We do it live. There we go. Let's add that to the stage. There we go. And we do that. All right. So Chernobyl. If you weren't scared enough about Chernobyl from that mini series a couple years ago, well, guess what? There's more. Chernobyl nuclear plant's protective shield has been damaged for months. This sounds like Homer Simpson's working there. Yeah. Oh, is that the elephant foot or whatever that is? Yeah, the elephant's foot. Ooh. If you haven't seen that miniseries Chernobyl, please do. It's very eye-opening. So a protective shield at Ukraine's Chernobyl power plant, the site of the world's worst nuclear disaster, has been in disrepair for almost a year, 10 months, as a result of Russian drone strikes. Officials from the International Atomic Energy Agency on Friday confirmed that the damage from the strike has not been fixed. IAEA officials said on Sunday, however, that radiation levels outside the nuclear plant appear to be holding steady, suggesting radioactive material from inside the plant is not currently leaching into the surrounding environment. They got dogs turning blue in Chernobyl. Did you see that? You seen that thing about that? There's like blue dogs.
Yeah, I saw that. Yeah, and it's actually very tragic because a lot of those dogs were descended from people's pets that they had to leave behind, and they're there.
Well, they thought they were coming back. They told those people in Chernobyl. They said, or they just assumed that they would get out. The thing would be over, and then they come back, and then they never came back.
By the way, listeners, are you still getting an echo? I'm hearing that somebody's getting an echo. Is anybody getting an echo still?
Echo?
Yeah.
That's Bill. Bill, you might want to turn. I don't know.
Okay, it's okay now. Okay, it's okay now. We should be fine. Okay, just wanted to make sure.
All right. The shield in question is a massive steel dome known as the New Safe Confinement that sits on top of Chernobyl's reactor number 4. It was this reactor that exploded on April 26, 1986, and the catastrophe remains the worst nuclear accident in history. Still today, there's a large mass of radioactive material underneath the reactor's remains at the plant known as the Elephant's Foot. Initially, Soviet engineers encased the damaged reactor in a concrete and lead sarcophagus before it was covered again in 2016 by the steel dome. Russia's invasion of Ukraine in 2022 derailed a plan to clean up the plant, and officials are now working to patch the shield as best they can. Timely and comprehensive restoration remains essential to prevent further degradation and ensure long-term nuclear safety, the Director General of the IAEA said in a statement. So, yeah, people don't understand, right, that Ukraine and Russia are at war. And guess what's in Ukraine? Chernobyl. And you know what else is in Ukraine? Russian bombs. Lots of them. Yeah. So you knew something like this was bound to happen with the stupidity of humankind being what it is. Right?
Yeah. And here we are now. Scientific American, they are saying that right now things seem to be under control, but the degradation is not making me real comfortable, particularly with all the impending hoofs of horsemen of the apocalypse and all that. It's just making me a little on the nerve. Particularly when today, but yes, and a lot of Chuck's UFO points this out.
And a lot of wheat. Yeah, definitely. But let's keep the bombs away from the nuclear power plants, please. I know sometimes you can't help it, but kind of, we don't want any more blue dogs, or maybe we do. I don't know, like those blue cats. Speaking of things that could kill you.
Yeah.
Wait a minute. What? Atoms for algorithms. I don't know if that's could kill you or not. I just didn't have a good segue. The Trump administration's top nuclear scientists think AI can replace humans in power plants. Here comes Homer. No AI's gonna replace me. Don't. During a presentation at the IAEA International Symposium on Artificial Intelligence on December 3rd, a U.S. Department of Energy scientist laid out a grand vision of the future where nuclear energy powers artificial intelligence, and artificial intelligence shapes nuclear energy in a virtuous cycle of peaceful nuclear deployment. AI and nuclear weapons, what could possibly go wrong? The goal is simple: to double the productivity and impact of American science and engineering within a decade. Ryan Baran, Department of Energy, is that Department of Energy, or is that, it's Department of Energy, right?
Yeah. They haven't turned it into a Department of Energy war yet.
Yeah.
Or war energy. Department of War Energy. There you go.
The Department of War is spelled Dow, right? It's DOW, because like Dow Jones. See, it's all a pattern. It's all cyclical. His presentation and others during the symposium held in Vienna, Austria, home of Falco, Amadeus, sorry, described a world where nuclear-powered AI designs, builds, and even runs the nuclear power plants still need to sustain them. But experts, no thank you. But experts find these claims made by one of the top nuclear scientists working for the Trump administration to be concerning and potentially dangerous. What? Somebody working for Trump saying some dumb shit? What? That never happened, did I don't remember. Tech companies are using artificial intelligence to speed up the construction of new nuclear power plants in the United States, but few know the lengths to which the Trump administration is paving the way and the part it's playing in deregulating a highly regulated industry to ensure that AI data centers have the energy they need to shape the future of America and the world. Dun, 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 dun. There it is. I don't want AI running anything important.
Well, right? Also what I'm hearing is that, they want nuclear power plants so that there's energy for AI. And then they want the AI to run.
Yeah, so it's just going to be this symbiotic relationship between AI and nuclear power.
And it's like, I'm like reading this, I'm saying, what the heck? And by the way, the 404, I subscribe to that newsletter. It's I got paid subscription. They've got some really good tech stuff. It's independent reporting on tech stuff. I do recommend checking them out. And if you can subscribe to the free newsletter, enjoy it. It's not, I think it's like $5 a month to subscribe otherwise, but it's worth checking out.
Well, speaking of AI, so we go to our alternate story here. Let me get this up here. As a woman aggressively arrested after speaking out against her AI overlords. I'm sorry, against AI data centers. It's the same thing, isn't it? Public opposition to AI data centers and the push for by corporations and officials to move forward with their construction. Anyway, were vividly illustrated in a viral video this week of a woman who was arrested after speaking out against a proposed data center in her community in Wisconsin. Right? Well, those data centers in Wisconsin, they run on cheese curds. Delicious cheese curds.
I run
They're
on
squeaky.
cheese.
Squeaky cheese. Christine Lejeune, a member of Great Lakes Neighbors United in Port Washington, spoke at a common council meeting in the town on Tuesday evening. That would be last night. Was it last night? Maybe not. Who knows? It was last week, maybe. The meeting was not focused on the recently approved $15 million Lighthouse data center set to be built a mile from downtown Port Washington, part of a project developed by Vantage Data Centers for OpenAI and Oracle. But the first 30 minutes were taken up by members of the public who spoke out against the project. As CNBC reported last month, more than 1,000 people signed a petition calling on Port Washington officials to obtain voter approval before entering into the deal. But the Common Council and a review board went ahead with creating a tax incremental district for the project without public input. The data center still requires other approvals to officially move forward. We will not continue to be silenced and ignored while our beautiful and pristine city is taken away from us and handed over to a corporation intent on extracting as many resources as they can, regardless of the impact on the people who live here, said Lejeune. Most leaders would have tabled the issue after receiving public input and providing sufficient notice, but you did nothing and you laughed about it. Lejeune spoke for her allotted 3 minutes and went slightly over the time limit. For shame. She then chanted, recall, recall, recall at members of the Common Council as other community members applauded. Police Chief Kevin Hingis then approached Lejeune while she was sitting in her seat listening to the next speaker and asked her to leave. She refused, and another officer approached her before a chaotic scene broke out. City officials had told attendees not to speak out of order during the meeting, and Lejeune acknowledged that she and others had spoken out of turn at times, but she told the Milwaukee Journal-Sentinel that she had been surprised by the police officers' demand that she leave, and by the eventual violence of the incident, with officers physically removing her from her seat and dragging her and two other people across the floor. The two other residents had approached Lejeune to protest the officers' actions. I never expected something like that to happen in a meeting. It was very strange, she told the Journal-Sentinel. Suddenly, this police chief showed up in front of me, and all I was thinking was, wait, what's going on? Why is he interrupting her speech? I felt like police were kind of primed tonight to pounce. I bet, I wouldn't be surprised. State Senator Chris Larson said that police should not be allowed to violently detain a person who is non-violently exercising their free speech. This used to be something all Americans agreed on. Yes, well, I don't know about agree, but most people did. William Walter, executive director of Our Wisconsin Revolution, filmed the arrest and told ABC News affiliate WISN, I've never seen a response like that in my life. What I did see was a lot of members of the Port Washington community who are really frustrated that they're being ignored and they're being dismissed by their elected officials, he said. AI data centers, he added, will impact you. They'll impact your friends, your family, your neighbors, your parents, your children. These are the kind of things that are going to be dictating the future of Wisconsin, or probably dicking them too. Not just for the next couple of years, but for the next decade, the next 50 years. After Lejeune's arrest, another resident, Dawn Stacy, denounced the Common Council members for allowing the aggressive arrest. We have so many people who have these concerns about this data center, she said. Are we being heard by the Common Council? No, we're not. Instead of being heard, we have people being dragged out of the room. For democracy to thrive, we need to have respect between public servants and the people who they serve. Yeah, good luck with that. Vantage has distributed flyers in Port Washington, which has a population of 17,000, promising residents 330 full-time jobs after construction. But as CNBC reported, data centers don't tend to create a lot of long-lasting jobs. Yeah, they're just server farms is basically all there is. You have like maybe a few people to do, technical maintenance at the site, but other than that, it's just like a warehouse kind of thing, Another project in Mount Pleasant, Wisconsin, hired 3,000 construction workers and foresees 500 employees, while McKinsey said a data center it is planning would need 1,500 people for construction, but only around 50 for steady state operations. So residents have raised concerns about the data center's impact on the environment, including through its water use, the potential for exploding utility prices for residents, and the overall purpose of advancing AI. That seems to be a common theme in a lot of these cities, these little, not even cities, like towns that they're building these data centers in, that all of a sudden their water bill just tripled. Thanks, data center that does absolutely nothing for us. As Common Dreams reported Thursday, the development of data centers has caused a rapid surge in consumers' electricity bills, with costs rising more than 250% in just 5 years. Vantage has claimed its center will run on 70% renewable energy. You know, you got to put those in air quotes because you don't know what the renewable energy is. But more than half of the electricity used to power data center campuses so far has come from fossil fuels, raising concerns that the expansion of the facilities would worsen the climate emergency. A recent Morning Consult poll found that a rapidly growing number of Americans support a ban on AI data centers in their surrounding areas. 41% said they would support a ban in the survey taken in late November, compared to 37% in October. Yeah. And who's getting screwed? These small towns, right? These smaller towns anyway.
Yeah, and as Bill Tilford, our guest, points out in the chat, ironically, consulting companies like McKinsey are losing revenue as AI advances. And in fact, I just the other day read an article about that consultants are losing their jobs. They're losing their clients at a rapid clip, or are going to be, because people are turning to AI to get information.
Mm-hmm. Well, and it's really
or to write
easy.
out plans, or to do an analysis, or whatever the case may be.
Yeah, and the way the AI is advancing, you're going to see a lot more jobs taken away because of this. They see, that's the thing. They promote these data centers and they say, well, it's going to bring jobs to the community, but they fail to mention they're temporary construction jobs. Once we build the shit, there ain't nothing for you to do. So they're only going to keep a handful of people on to run the shit after that.
And they're draining a lot of energy. They're using the water. I mean, and this woman, I think that people should probably follow the rules in these forums, but it sounds like that they felt that they weren't being listened to.
That was probably the case too. She would probably quiet in a few meetings, and then she probably just got to the point where it's like, you know what, they're not listening, so I'm going to have to do something. Yeah. And unfortunately, that's what probably all of us are going to have to do if we want any kind of change in this country. We're going to have to stand up and do it, because it ain't going to be done for us if you don't. If you want, yeah.
No, you go on.
No, I was just going to say that there's people who they love AI, they love to use AI, they love the convenience of it, but they don't want that data center near them.
Yeah, and I know. I mean, I'm as big of a hypocrite as anybody else, because I use it. I think all of us do, and it's not all, but a lot of us do. But I'm also kind of scratching my head and saying, what price am I paying for this?
Exactly. Right. And that's just and we're just talking about the commercial AIs out there too. The governments themselves have this thing called Advanced General Intelligence, AGI. Those are the ones that you have to worry about. That's what Trump is kind of talking about with having this advanced AI run these power plants and stuff. Yeah, I'm sure you're not going to see any meltdowns at all. Right, that's right. We got more news. One more, and then we'll bring Bill in.
We got some great folks in the chat too today. Thanks. Good to see you, Steve Wolfbrand. Good to see you, Trauma Raised Me. Good to see you, Chuck, Uncle Bill. see, where are you back in here? Just want to say hello to everybody. CBC Voter 620. Thanks, thank you all for joining us. Also, if you are on Instagram or in the Instagram feed right now, we don't necessarily see your questions or anything immediately. I am checking them, so just put them in there, and we'll get to you eventually.
So, Merchants of Myth, new report exposes plastic recycling as costly failure. Uh-oh. This is from Greenpeace.
Yeah.
A new report from Greenpeace USA reveals plastic recycling has largely failed after decades of being touted by corporations as a solution to the pollution crisis. The report uncovered that only a fifth of the 8.8 million tons of the most commonly produced types of plastics found in items like bottles, jugs, food containers, and caps are actually recyclable. Moreover, plastic recycling rates in the U.S. have been cut in half since 2014, from 9.5% to roughly 5 to 6% today. The report concludes that plastic recycling is no more of a viable solution now than it was in the 50s. Our team of researchers also uncovered the effort by the plastic industry, retailers, prominent plastic-reliant brands, and related trade associations, the so-called Merchants of Myth, to mislead the public, protect their profits, and delay regulatory action. Major brands like Coca-Cola, Unilever, and Nestle have been quietly retracting sustainability commitments while continuing to rely on single-use plastic packaging. On top of this, the U.S. plastic industry is undermining meaningful plastic regulation by making false claims about the recyclability of their products to avoid bans and reduce public backlash. As global plastic production continues to climb and is projected to triple by 2050, our report investigates the ineffectiveness of voluntary measures without regulatory support. It kind of reminds me of, what was that from Ideology? It's just basically the landfills are just everywhere. There's like landfill mountains, and then they collapse and kill people. So John Hockavar, Greenpeace USA Oceans campaigner director, said recycling is a toxic lie pushed by the plastics industry that is now being propped up by a pro-plastic narrative emanating from the White House. These corporations and their partners continue to sell the public a comforting lie to hide the hard truth that we simply have to stop producing so much plastic. Instead of investing in real solutions, they've poured billions into public relations campaigns that keep us hooked on single-use plastic while our communities, oceans, and bodies pay the price. Pro tip, if you really want a good paying job and you have no morals, get into public relations. It's a really creepy thing. Despite growing public awareness of the environmental and health concerns posed by plastics and microplastics, Merchants of Myth reveals many corporations have ramped up their disinformation campaigns and aggressive lobbying and are being backed up by a compromised government. While the Make Americans Healthy Again platform pledged to address chronic illnesses linked to toxic chemicals, its recent health report largely sidestep plastics. Wow, wonder why. What? I know. Where are my pearls? Where are my pearls? I can't clutch. One of the most pervasive sources of chemical exposure. Despite growing scientific consensus on the health risks and economic costs of plastic pollution, the report offered only vague commitments to develop a framework to study chemical exposures, including microplastics, allocate limited funding for safer farming, and launch a public pesticides awareness campaign. In other words, magic. Joe Banner, sorry, I have to show my flair. Joe Banner, executive director of the Descendants Project, a nonprofit dedicated to preserving Black history and fighting environmental racism in the frontline communities of Louisiana's river parishes, said it's the same story everywhere. Poor Black, brown, and indigenous communities turn into sacrifice zones so oil companies and big brands can keep making money. They call it development, but it's exploitation, plain and simple. There's nothing acceptable about poisoning our air, water, and food to sell more throwaway plastic. Our communities are not sacrifice zones, and we are not disposable people. Well, no, you're not disposable people, but they think you are. But we know you're not. So other key findings, recycling access gaps. Up to 43% of U.S. households lack access to basic recycling services. Participation in recycling is also decreasing. Infrastructure limits of the 380 municipal recycling facilities nationwide, only 46 are capable of processing common consumer plastics. Wow. Technological limits. Only 1 of 6 advanced recycling plants can handle mixed post-consumer waste, and even at full capacity, these facilities cannot meet the 60% recycling rate required by law. And the cost to taxpayers. The public has to pay to collect and sort plastics, while most of it ends up in the landfill with the rest of the trash. Yes.
But there's big business in recycling. I mean, there's, I have to pay for it. When we have our trash collection here, I have to pay for the recycling. It's a separate service. It's a big business. They can put the little symbols on products, and it's PR. It's its own separate business. And you consider they have all these recycling trucks that are running on fuel, going around and collecting recyclables that can't often be recycled, and there's energy that's being used to recycle them.
There's really not a real concerted effort to do that, because that would take a corporate effort, and they're more interested in gaslighting you and lying to you, and rather than actually doing something good for you like that. But that's the thing, though, and the thing with this recycling too. How is this? I know this is, just bear with me here.
Yeah.
So you have people on the streets who, and maybe not even on the streets. So some people, they use recycling as like a second income to them, right?
Yeah.
In the big city,
yes, big time.
You'll see people with bikes, and they'll have like these trash bags full of plastic bottles and stuff. And they're taking that to go get some money.
Yeah.
At the recycling center. So, I mean, if this gets to the point where they just stop recycling, period, the recycling centers are going to shut down, and then these people are going to be hurting as well. I know it's probably minor, but it's still another angle to this that people aren't talking about.
Yeah. We have so much stuff, we don't know where to put it. We've got whole industries around the management of our stuff, including stuff that is trash. We are buried in stuff. I think it was Chuck suggesting that the planet might eventually want to get used to having trash piles and doing trash surfing.
Yeah, just like Idiocracy, where they had the trash mountains, and then the mountains collapse and kill people, and then there's tragedy. And I mean, it's a silly movie, but hell, it seems like we're getting there, doesn't it?
It does.
Seems like it.
So we got, I just want to let everybody know, Marcus Cage, thank you for making yourself known. Marcus is a political matrix. Do check out his show. It is fantastic. We're also seeing Bela and Kate's in the house, and it's great. And Tom Hall, great to see you, old friend. And we're got a great crew here. We really do appreciate you. And I think you're all going to like our next guest.
That's right. He's a foreign affairs expert. He's going to be talking about Venezuela with us today. His name is Bill Tilford, and let's bring him in. What's up, Bill? How are you?
Hey, Bill.
You're on, Bill.
You're on, Bill.
That's you. You're muted.
You're muted.
We can't hear you.
There we go.
There you
I
are.
needed to unmute myself. Hi, it's. Am I on mute? Am I
No,
on
You're
mute?
good, man.
We can hear you, man. We can hear you. Sorry about that. Everybody, for those of you who followed me back when I was on Hard Lens doing Civically Minded, Bill Tilford was a guest a couple of times. We had some really good shows with him. Bill is he's been very involved in politics, election campaigns. He also is a shortwave radio host shows on shortwave radio. Very involved with the world music scene. In fact, your show next month, I believe, is going to be Venezuelan music. Uncle Bill's Melting Pot, is it?
Yes.
It is. Hey, good. If you want to check out his stuff,
Yes.
check the show notes.
And that comes out of radio channel 292 in Germany.
Okay. I've got links to his stuff in the show notes. So check that out. It's on the Substack, and you can check out what he's doing. He's got this incredible knowledge of music, and his shows are definitely worth listening to. But we're here to talk about Venezuela today. I've been hearing the hoofbeats have been going on for a while, saber rattling, and for a while with Venezuela, we know about this. But now things seem to be getting far more intense, and I wanted to get Bill's perspective on this. Bill, are we lagging?
In order to understand what Venezuela, I think we are.
Okay. You think we're lagging? Okay.
Yes. How do we address that?
Ooh, it wasn't bad a while ago. We'll figure it out. It's fine. Let's see. You know what? Hang on a second.
Sorry, folks. This is what happens when you're doing stuff live.
Yeah. So I guess basically, let's just get started, and we could talk about the history of Venezuela and its relationship with the United States. And you could start at any point that you want, Bill.
Actually, let's pretend that I'm speaking to you from Mars or...
Bill, let me ask you. Bill, are you listening to us through YouTube? Or are you listening to us through?
I'm going to do this in chunks.
Okay, go ahead.
I'm doing this through YouTube. Is there a way to listen through the studio?
Yeah, you should be able to in your audio settings set your audio to your headphones. But I mean,
bear with me.
That's okay.
That's all right. Nobody tell Bill he's on Mars.
Yeah, let's see if this is working.
So, can you hear us now, Bill?
I can hear you.
Okay, there goes the delay.
There goes the delay. Yeah.
That Facebook, that YouTube delay can get up to about like 10 seconds or something like that. That would drive me crazy.
Yeah, I'm not seeming to be able to get...
Let's try something here real quick.
Okay, let me see. Yeah, I can hear me now, so I will just turn off the YouTube audio. Say something to me, please.
Hey, Bill, you still there?
Yeah, we're good.
Okay.
Yeah,
all right, Bill.
I think we're good. My apologies to those of you who are suffering through this. Okay.
Dude, we've been through so many audio things. Don't even worry about it.
Yeah,
Please go ahead.
Okay. The best way to understand what Venezuela is probably to begin by sweeping away what it's not. And I'm going to ask you to bear with me as we're doing that. First of all, it's not about drugs really on us. And we can explain that actually from two angles. First of all, the biggie on drugs that's killing so many Americans is what? It's fentanyl. Well, guess how fentanyl is made and where it comes from. The precursor chemicals mostly come out of China. They arrive at a few points, mainly in Mexico, but also in the United States and a wee tiny bit in Western Canada going north. So bombing boats in the Caribbean accomplishes absolutely nothing about the fentanyl trade. So how about cocaine? Well, little bit comes out of Venezuela, but it's never been a key manufacturing locale or even a key transshipment point. need to go a little bit to the side of Venezuela into Colombia to see some of that.
Mm-hmm.
And in fact, I think we bombed out a Colombian fisherman in the course of our misadventures in the Caribbean. Oh, and if cocaine were so important, then why did we just pardon a former president of Honduras who had been imprisoned in the U.S. for 4.5 decades for massive trafficking of cocaine from Honduras? Actually, there's an answer to that question, and it's not a very pleasant one. Fellow's name is Juan Orlando Hernandez. And he actually, earlier in his political career, took money from El Chapo when he was first running for office. He was busted. He was imprisoned up here. Was going to be 45 years. Trump just pardoned him. He happens to belong to a party that Trump is backing in the current Honduran elections, which, curiously enough, are now disputed. But Trump is still litigating the 2020 U.S. presidential elections. So it's hard to say where that's going to go out. But he did try to lean on Honduras to make sure that the right party won. Here's the punchline. Honduras just put out an arrest warrant for Mr. Hernandez themselves. Mm-hmm. They figured if we aren't going to jail him and he goes back there, maybe they can do that for us. Now, being that you have a Chicago connection, you may find this fun. Guess who Trump gave clemency to back in May? Hint, very notorious Chicagoan.
Al Capone?
No, still among the living, Larry Hoover.
Oh,
that's right. Right. Yeah.
Yeah. Now, there's a case to be made, maybe, that Mr. Hoover reformed. But if you were really doing the zero tolerance thing, honest to God, that would not have been on the short list of people that you'd grant clemency to. And certainly Mr. Hernandez would not be on the short list of people you'd give pardons. So it's not about drugs. It's not even about Venezuelan being communist. And this one's going to surprise most readers and listeners, I think. Technically, Venezuela is not communist and never has been. Now, I'm going to have to tell you a little history in order for that to make sense. Because, hey, they're in bed with Cuba. They got to be commies, right? Well, it's not really as simple as that. In real life, the Communist Party of Venezuela never joined Chavez's or Maduro's coalition. Going back in time, when Chavez first came to power a couple of decades ago, it was part of what he called the Fifth Republic movement. There were still multiple political parties, and actually, technically, there are still a few. But in 2006, there was a merger of about a dozen of them into something called the Popular Socialist United Venezuela Party, PSUV. The communists never joined that. That movement was always considered too far to the right for their tastes, which, by the way, is why until just a few years ago, you could drive to a Citgo. Ever go to a Citgo gas station?
Oh, man.
Yeah.
Guess where the petroleum came from?
Venezuela?
Venezuela.
Mm-hmm.
Fast forward, and in 2020, the Communist Party of Venezuela actually denounced Maduro for being too far to the right. The Venezuelan government responded by taking the Communist Party to court. And now there are two of them. There's one that is pro-Maduro that's kind of a puppet Communist Party. And there's still the old line Communist Party that is still out there. So it's not because they're commies. Is it about the oil? Well, yes and no. Venezuela's petroleum industry was nationalized back in the mid-1970s, long before Chavez was on the scene. But it always did deals with anybody that would buy, and it still does. I gave you a link that I don't need you to pull up now, but I should recommend you put it out there for those who are still with us after our rough start.
No, they're here. They're here. We got folks.
No, they're used to that. They come for the rough starts, and when we're unsmooth, they're bored as hell. No,
okay. Anyway, it's from Reuters. It's not a conspiracy site. And what you'll learn is right now, as I speak, the United States is importing a multiple of several times more oil than Venezuela, courtesy of Chevron, than Cuba is. So it's not that we can't get Venezuelan oil. However, the quality of the oil now, because the industry is degraded over the years, is not something that's as readily convertible to put in your gas tank as it used to be. Mm-hmm. So it's finding in applications and things like naphtha, but Chevron is still very much in the game. So we don't even need to knock over the Venezuelan government to get oil. In fact, the Biden administration was actually trying to negotiate a deal to increase the imports with some sanctions relief under the table. I cannot conclusively say that the Trump administration is not doing something over the tail. But anyway, it's not about the oil. We don't need to invade Venezuela to get access to the oil. So what is it?
Yeah, what is it? What if it's not the drugs, if it's not the oil, then what is it?
I'm going to call it a coalition of the self-interested. And let's begin with the news of the day. What's the Nobel Committee doing today? They're giving a peace prize in absentia to Ms. Machado, an opposition leader in Venezuela.
Mm-hmm.
This is a fascinating, we could almost do a half hour just on this little event because of all of the soap opera-like wrinkles, but I'll hit on the high points. She was actually nominated by then Senator Marco Rubio a year ago. And Rubio, in his mind, ties Venezuela to the structure that's propping up Cuba. And it kind of is, but Cuba's getting a tiny fraction of Venezuelan oil compared to what they'd like to get. Why? Because they can't pay for it in cash. Mm-hmm. You know, they have some advisors there, yes, but it's more profitable to sell it to the Chinese and Uncle Sam. Oh, did I say that the U.S. was importing hundreds of thousands of barrels a day? Yes, I did, I think. So Ms. Machado is technically in hiding, but supposedly on her way to Oslo after the fact. Now, how she gets out of the country, I can't say. And Venezuela has threatened to declare her a fugitive once she's there. But here's the interesting thing about her. She's not exactly the Malay brand of right-winger. For those of you that don't look too far south very often, Malay is currently running Argentina's government and is sort of anarcho-capitalist kind of fellow. And Trump offered to give Argentina's government a $20 billion bailout if Malay's colleagues in the government won, which they mostly did. But Malay is privatizing everything he can get his hands on. So let's circle back to Machado. Machado wants to privatize Venezuela's oil company and everything that she can get her hands on. So from Venezuela's point of view, she's an extreme right-winger. Did the opposition legitimately, and I want to stress, there are still multiple parties in the National Assembly. Did they really win last time? Nobody really truly knows for sure. Bear in mind our own experience with the 2020 and elections here.
Mm-hmm.
So, and bear in mind who it is that's saying that the Venezuelan election was stolen.
Mm-hmm.
So, I can't conclusively tell you this is the right one, but let's just say who really won is a disputable point.
Okay.
So with these attacks on these boats in the Caribbean, right? Is this just part of an intimidation tactic by the Trump administration to try to get Maduro to cower down a little bit, to just kind of back off, or what do you think this is about?
That's probably the lion's share of it. But I need to delve a little bit into history again. The U.S. attempted premature regime change, including a failed coup with Juan Guaido.
Mm-hmm.
And so the Venezuelan insiders that might have otherwise been easy to turn have already played that card. So if you're in Venezuela, you're remembering that that just happened. And that kind of reduces your motivation level to do anything hostile to the government. Mm-hmm. Secondly, this government wasn't born yesterday. It's been around in some form for over a couple of decades. So there is a whole generation of Venezuelan administrators in and out of the military that have grown up under the system. And although there is a degree of extreme poverty in Venezuela, there are also some people that are doing fairly well. And they have a lot to lose if the government changes. So although Maduro is not anywhere near as charismatic as Chavez was, he has his homies.
Mm-hmm.
Also, while Venezuela is not communist, it is, like many and most maybe Latin American countries, extremely nationalist. And the harder that Uncle Sam pushes on any country, the harder that actual nationalists within the country are going to resist.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. That's why the $50 million bounty on Maduro's head didn't go anywhere, because whoever takes it is going to be a goat with the nationalists, so they won't be able to rule. Will Uncle Sam protect them as a refugee? Let's call it bad timing that Trump recently decided that refugees from places like Afghanistan, even if they helped the CIA, were from, can I say shithole countries? We don't have to.
You absolutely certainly can, Bill.
Okay. Yeah, Trump decided that all these people that helped us in various wars came from shithole countries, and now they got to go back, or at least we need to look at them very carefully. So, and long ago, Muammar Gaddafi was basically at a point in life where he was doing everything the West told him to, and we took him out anyway.
Yeah.
In Panama, a little farther north, a little closer to home, Noriega had been a CIA asset until he wasn't.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And even Saddam had been our friend while we were.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So I'm going to ask you a rhetorical question. Who other than a sucker would trust Uncle Sam?
Agreed. You know, something you and I were talking about, Uncle Bill, a few days ago. You sent me a great video, which is in the show notes. Check out that video. It's great, about, you know, the idea of a war with Venezuela and why that would not be a great idea for the U.S.
Yeah, and I'll give you the highlight reel verbally. In addition to the regular military, the Popular Socialists United have put together something called colectivos, which the Rubio faction of the Republican Party would call gangs. The Venezuelan government prefers to call them militias, but they're ready to go as guerrillas in the cities. And well, first of all, what would happen if the U.S. Army invaded on the ground is the Venezuelan army would melt away pretty quickly after putting up a pro forma show. But there would be guerrillas in the cities, and we don't do very well with that type of warfare. But guess what? Guess what else? Guess what else Venezuela has? All kinds of jungle.
Yeah.
Right. And we
Yeah.
don't do very well with that kind of warfare, is
No,
what I
we don't.
recall.
There's
Right.
one particular example where we did not fare well in the jungle. Just
Yeah.
saying. Just saying. Just
Right.
saying.
So it would be all kinds of easy to plop down a bunch of Marines in Caracas. But once we did that, we'd be in there for decades, literally.
Yeah.
Oh, unless we got tired first.
And it's resources we don't have.
Right. So let's go to the boats. We have a president who has declared war on drugs, even as he's pardoning drug dealers. I didn't give it to you as a link, but if you look far enough, you can find some sources that indicate that he had already pardoned 100 different drug dealers at different levels by May. And it's not because he likes drugs. Everybody had a case to be made, if you like. So getting back to what these boats are about, I've always felt that parallels between Trump and Hitler or Mussolini were overdone, although the events of the recent couple of months are giving me a more open mind. But the more I watch this, the more I see an increasing number of parallels with the Roman Emperor Caligula.
Mm-hmm.
Caligula was one of the early emperors. There was still a Senate that tried to speak up once in a while, to which Caligula responded by attempting to name a horse a consul. History is divided over whether he was able to complete that before he got assassinated, but it was at least in process.
Jesus.
Caligula tried to invade what we now call Britain.
Mm-hmm.
The invasion failed, but he knew he couldn't go back to Rome a failure. So what he did was have his legions collect seashells. He went back to Rome, and he had a triumph. And a triumph is what you did as a Roman emperor when you came back in big parades, bands, people cheering, souvenirs from your victory. In this case, the seashells. And it was presented as Caligula fought the sea god Neptune and won. And he had enough power that nobody was going to question that.
Right. Yeah.
So looking at the boats, consider this. If it was really, we're busting drug traffickers, why not have the Coast Guard do it? Bring back the drugs, and you've got a wonderful display. Well, there are legal reasons why that's problematic too, but that doesn't really bother the Trump administration that much. Laws, those are pesky things. So I look at them as seashells. He said he's going to declare war on drugs. He has to do something.
Mm-hmm.
He said that Maduro is a baddie. He has to do something. There is an element of saber rattling involved with this. There are still people in the Beltway that think that if they just rattle the saber dramatically enough, that Maduro will cave. Why won't he do that? Well, a biggie is there are Russian advisors on the ground reminding him that it is just a show.
Right.
And he can't trust Uncle Sam anyway because he's seen all these precedents. So why go? So the military in part is that, but there's another part to it. And one of the links I did share with you is the new national security strategy.
Right.
Interestingly, it does not name Venezuela or Cuba by name, but taking a holistic view at the whole hemisphere, it basically says this is all ours, including the assets, and foreigners keep out. So bombing the boats, while it isn't going to drive out Maduro, maybe adds to the Trump's a madman guy who knows what he might do. So if he threatens us, maybe we better pay attention.
Do you think though that I don't know if this really has anything to do with Venezuela or not, but do you think he's coming up with these ideas out of whole cloth, or do you think his people around him are planting these ideas into him, or maybe people that like your Adelson type people that write checks bigger than you can, or is it a combination, or is it any of that stuff?
It's a combination, but I think probably the moneyed interests are the strongest of the bunch. Oh, I forgot to add, it's not about terrorism either. Now, turn on Fox or any regular outlet and you're going to hear narco-terrorists.
Mm-hmm.
I did share a link with you to the State Department's list of state sponsors of terrorism. If Maduro's a narco-terrorist, you'd think Venezuela would be on there, right? Well, surprise. There are 4 countries on the U.S. State Department's state sponsors of terrorism list. There's Cuba, which is kind of funny, but that's neither here nor there for this conversation. There's North Korea. There is Iran. And there... I'm going to try to say this last one without laughing. There is Syria. Now, why is Syria funny? Well, guess who was at the White House? Yeah, president of Syria. And he once had a $10 million bounty on his head, payable by Uncle Sam for anybody who brought him in. They're still on the list, even though we're trying to persuade Israel to lighten up on what they're doing in Syria. Apparently, the Israel lobby has not given the administration clearance to take Syria off the list. But Venezuela is not there. And you would think if they were really serious about the terrorist thing for any reason other than propaganda, that Venezuela would be prominently displayed. It is not.
Yeah. That's how you know they're not serious about this. They do a lot of this. They do a lot of talky to get people riled up and stuff, and then they don't do anything, right? Like Venezuela, they're terrorists. Well, why aren't they on the terrorism list? Ooh, it's all smoke and mirrors with these jackasses.
Well, I did just a couple of things I wanted to bring up. First of all, the name Larry Hoover came up. The funny thing was it was during the first Trump presidency, there had been talk about pardoning Larry Hoover and bringing him back to Chicago to get gang violence sorted out. And that was something that was brought up several times during that presidency. The other thing that I wanted to mention was, what do you think in terms of that Venezuela is a easier target for this administration because of the anti-immigration sentiment, and it's easier to pick on one of those Latin American countries?
Well, I guess I have to respond to that with a question. Easier target compared to.
Is it just easier to compare to other potential areas where there is oil?
Or is it just a particularly easy target at this time period? Is it a weak state right now, or what do you think?
Well, it's weak in the sense that it's not going to invade us.
Right.
Yeah.
And it's weak in the sense that if we invaded it, the regular army would melt away pretty quickly. Although they do have some advanced Russian anti-aircraft weaponry that they would probably test out, just they can. But looking at countries that we like to consider third world, whether they really are or not, Venezuela would be on that list. And you have to consider the potential population of guerrillas. That's GUERR, not GOR, as part of the forces that you're arrayed against. We have stubbornly refused to do that historically, which is why we keep making the same mistakes, expecting different results. In that respect, Venezuela is not weak. It's weak enough not to be an actual threat to anybody else, but stronger than it looks to those who think we can knock it over in 3 days. And
well, Trump did say he was gonna end the Ukraine-Russian war in 24 hours, and well, by my watch, which is really hairs and freckles, it's past 24 hours. So it just seems like the same kind of BS that he's pumping here too. And if they don't watch out, we're gonna have a second Russia-U.S. proxy war in Venezuela, or at least it could potentially be one.
Well, I want to say something about my past radio life, because Lainey had a piece in one of the chapters. To say that the administration is indifferent to truth would be an understatement. On one of the projects that I did in radio, Lainey had a couple of programs, one of which was called Orwellian Airwaves. And each night that she was on, she read a passage from first 1984 and then Animal Farm. And then I think you went to Coming Up for Air, if I remember correctly.
I also read some of the essays. There was about Gandhi. And there was some, it was a pretty profound experience. But as you and I talked about, Uncle Bill, reading 1984 out loud and hearing it is very different experiences than just sitting there silently reading it. And it was really one of the more unnerving experiences of my life when I did that series.
Yeah, I wish somebody would do that again, including I would urge you to consider retrofitting that and putting out on radio somewhere again. It makes things register in a way that even if you when you watch the movie, you obviously miss a lot because it's not there. It's a movie. It's sure. But even when you read the book, you're mostly there, but not completely the way you are listening. When you're listening, you're actually paying attention on a different level.
Yeah.
And you go through that experience now, and so much of what we're seeing around us is almost as if they were using that as a how-to.
Yeah. Yeah, it is. Well, thank you so much, Bill, for being on the show. I'm sorry for the technical difficulties, but you've given us a lot of really important information. Also, in our in the show notes, there's a bunch of links that Bill has provided. I would urge folks to check those out to get a better understanding of what's going on. The saber rattling is really whether it is disturbing, whether it's a distraction, whether it's bad actors influencing an increasingly deranged president. I don't know, but it is disturbing. And having the history and some history and some background, being able to connect some dots. May not make me sleep better at night, but it gives me a better idea of what's going on.
I have said this half jokingly, but after watching the FIFA Peace Prize, I'm beginning to wonder if there might be an element of truth to it. Maybe the best way for Maduro to settle this is to come up with some kind of Bolivarian medal, Father of the Americas or something, offer to give it to Trump in a ceremony in Caracas. Shave about 10 points off the price of Venezuelan oil, and Trump can then say, I brought peace, I prevented a conflict, and I got a better oil deal than that awful Sleepy Joe could ever have gotten.
Right. It's the best deal. You'll never get a better deal than what I get but Sleepy Joe couldn't do anything. He was always asleep.
And maybe we all go home and live unhappily ever after.
Yeah, that's probably the most realistic part of that scenario.
I know we're maybe running over, but can I throw in one aside?
Oh, please go ahead.
Sure, please go ahead.
I was listening very attentively to your recycling report. There's a 1974 Japanese movie that's very difficult to find because it was considered so disturbing that they pulled it off the market, and you still can't find it on Amazon but if you look hard enough, you can find it. It's called Prophecies of Nostradamus. The director, Toshio Masuda, was a very prominent Japanese director, and he predicts a lot of environmental catastrophes, not going back to Nostradamus's predictions piece by piece. That's just the premise to set up the movie. But it included a catastrophe at Fukushima. It included human mutations due to pollution. I could go on. It's worth the search. Again, it's very difficult to find. You can't just go on Amazon and buy it.
Mm-hmm.
But,
what's it called again, Bill? I'll put it in the chat.
In English, it's Prophecies of Nostradamus. It's a 1974 Japanese film by Toshio Masuda.
All right. Yeah, we got some folks in the chat saying that they've seen it or that they have it. There we go.
I didn't capitalize Nostradamus because I don't have that much respect for the man. No, I'm kidding. I just messed up my fingers.
He just used Nostradamus as the premise of the plot was that a Japanese scientist had read Nostradamus and predicted all these things, and everybody laughed, but they started coming true. But that was considered more palatable than just pulling those out of the blue. In spite of that, Japanese society found it so disturbing that they pulled the film. Oh, and apparently we were a little worried about it here too, because there are English dubbed versions of it out there.
Mm-hmm.
I have one, but you can't find it on the American market either.
So Chuck's UFO show is saying it's on Letterboxd, letterboxd.com. So we'll check that out. Thank you. I appreciate that.
Bill, is there anything else? Do you want to hang out with us we're almost done with the show. If you got to go, that's fine. But if you want to hang out, we just got a few more things we're going to be talking about.
I can hang.
Okay, great.
It's officially a party. All right. I didn't want to announce it, because I didn't want to get my hopes up, but it is officially a party. Good. Yeah, good. Yeah, that was very, Venezuela is one of those places. It just seems so, if you're just a common lay person, you're like, why the hell are we going to war with Venezuela? Right. And you don't know the layers, you don't know the depth of it, that kind of thing. It would really, and all you hear from the government is like narco terrorists. These guys are evil. Look under, check those layers underneath and you'll find the truth. So We appreciate all that information on there. And of course, you're a friend of the show. You can always come back whenever you want.
Absolutely. We always say to our friends, never wait for an invitation.
Yeah, I know, because we're shitty hosts.
But seriously, and Bill approached me about this, so I'm glad to have him on here. But we're going to have, we do appreciate it. And yeah, anytime, just let us know.
Go ahead.
If you really want to lie awake at night, I might be up for Ukraine sometime.
Ooh.
Uh-oh. Yeah. Yeah, there you go.
Let me let you do your thing.
We'll plan on it. So let's talk about second chance hiring here. We get to the recurring tide here, some of our stories that we take a look back on and see if there's updates and see what else is going on. So second chance hiring continues to gain traction among major manufacturers. What does that mean? Go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say, this is something that's near and dear to my heart, is reentry for those who have been incarcerated. And so I was really excited to see this. And this article does explain what second chance hiring is, which is basically giving people a chance who have been incarcerated, who have been impacted by the criminal justice system, to find jobs, because that can be a very difficult thing for people to do. And I've been reporting on this again for a while. One of these stories I've been following for years. There are some interesting tax breaks that can be offered to businesses that hire somebody out of the prison system. There is also a bond that they can get to help protect an employer. But we're seeing and manufacturing is now opening up as a second chance employer, although they've noted that manufacturing jobs have dropped a lot too. But there is some opening.
The number of manufacturing employees has dropped sharply since in the last 25 years, and the industry had 409,000 job openings this August, according to the latest Bureau of Labor statistics. By 2033, manufacturers could face a shortage of 3.8 million workers. That's according to Pooja Tripathi from the Manufacturing Institute. As a result, manufacturers are getting more creative and thoughtful about recruiting from non-traditional talent pools. That includes hiring individuals with a record, referred to as justice involved or justice impacted people. That's a pretty way of saying you were in jail. A group that includes approximately 77 million people in the United States. So manufacturers in various sectors have undertaken second chance hiring initiatives. Mercix, which produces parts for automotive, medical, and industrial markets, has hired associates to work in its stamping, assembly, and shipping departments. JBM Packaging in Ohio works with state correction facilities to identify people who are soon to be released and who could be recruited for open jobs. Now, this isn't the same thing as them actually still being in prison and working these jobs for like pennies, very little. This is like when they get out.
Yeah.
So, another company, Awake Window and Door Company, which makes products such as sliding doors and window walls, found that second chance hiring opened the doors to more talent. According to Maria Gates, the company's co-founder and chief people officer. Ooh, a people officer. I want to be a people officer. What's your job? I'm a people officer. Where are your papers? Today, 54% of Awake's staff has a justified involved background, Gates says. So, yeah, they bring in extremely hardworking, dedicated employees, and we're not talking about people like, hardcore Colorado Supermax type people that, are probably going to be in jail for the rest of their lives. We're talking about just people, they made mistakes, or maybe they did something wrong. They paid for it with prison, and now they're out and they're trying to get a second chance for themselves. All right. So it just seems like win-win for employers and these people too.
Well, for me, it's an issue of people, even if they've committed heinous crimes, most of them are not going to be or many of them are not going to be incarcerated for life. They're getting out at some point, and something they are going to need a job. They are going to need a way to support themselves, and this is why I think it's critical that we rethink the way a lot of hiring is done in the U.S. Because we cannot support. We don't want crime. We don't want crime here in the U.S. And one way, in my view, of reducing crime is to make sure that people have access to gainful employment. And if they are being released, they're out there. They're going to be out there. Do we want them going back into the prison system, committing more crime and back in the prison system, or are we going to offer them an opportunity and a chance to get a job that gives them a work history, allows them to build credit, allows them to build wealth, and become functioning, contributing members of society? And so again, this is, there are many programs, there are many employers that do this. We've all heard the legends of Waffle House cooks, who you do not want to be throwing hands with, but there are many businesses that do this. And there's also been some innovative programs in prisons. I know one was training inmates to do underwater welding. And what they found was that, first of all, that's a very macho job. So I think that it may have appealed to a lot of incarcerated people, incarcerated men in particular. But when they got out of prison with that training in underwater welding, they were making six figures a year. And not surprisingly, those guys primarily stayed out of the system.
Yeah, isn't it crazy how that works when you're able to take care of yourself and provide for yourself and have a decent job like that, how you tend to not want to get back into that business that got you in the prison in the first place. So,
but if people don't get a chance, that's what's going to happen. So, good on manufacturers.
Meanwhile, a wave of tax cuts has left many states vulnerable to a Trump SNAP and Medicaid crisis. Yeah. I think this SNAP thing is a lot bigger than what Trump thought it was going to be. He probably, we're just not going to fund it, and then they'll give them money back or whatever. But it has consequences. This fall, Americans got to see what it's like to go without a safety net for the hungry, with the U.S. government shut down for multiple weeks and Donald Trump refusing to fund SNAP, the federal food SNAP program. The federal food stamp program. A panic set in among the more than 40 million people who rely on it. Families skipped meals and babies went unfed. Food banks ran out of food, and some people turned to dumpster diving. Although the hipsters do that in Brooklyn all the time. They do the dumpster dive, especially at like Trader Joe's or something like that.
They call themselves freegans.
Freegans, yes, the freegans. They're just dirty hippies. No, I know some of them. They're cool, but some of them are dirty hippies, so they'll admit it. It was just a glimpse of what's to come. Starting next October, Trump's so-called One Big Beautiful Bill Act will shift billions in SNAP costs from the federal government onto states. Some states won't be able to afford this, and they could be forced to deeply cut or even shutter their SNAP programs altogether, according to Congressional Budget Office. Let me guess. The states that won't be able to afford this is going to be the blue states, right? Because then they've been going after the blue states, basically. Yeah. To be crystal clear, what this bill did was create the potential for SNAP programs to no longer exist. And that was probably the goal all along. He wants to get rid of SNAP. In states that cannot afford to. Representative Shamari Figures, an Alabama Democrat, asked a panel of state and county social service office officials during a congressional hearing in September. Is it correct that under the new cost-sharing arrangement, Figures continued, these states might not have it in their budgets to feed anyone at all, including children and homeless veterans? Yes, officials from Ohio to Wyoming answered one by one. Most vulnerable to this outcome are 26 states that have enacted sweeping corporate and personal income tax cuts over the past 5 years, depriving them of billions of dollars in revenue that they could have used at just this sort of moment. I'm looking at Texas right here. That Texas is one of those big ones that have done this too. That's why people move to Texas, all the sweet tax cuts and stuff like that. But your social programs are crap because there's no money to fund it, or at least they don't allocate the money. These state-level tax cuts disproportionately benefiting the rich have moved through the legislatures with backing from powerful conservative organizations, including American Legislative Exchange Council, or ALEC, And the Koch brothers founded Americans for Prosperity, as well as the Tax Foundation, a think tank. These groups seized on an opportunity created by the pandemic. States were flush with cash from 2021 to 2023, largely because federal stimulus funding was flooding in to make significant progress towards the long-term goal of eliminating state income taxes entirely. Now, that is a horrible idea, right?
Here's the thing, what I don't think people understand, and this is that the money for SNAP, it's a federal program, Department of Agriculture, but the states have to do the administrative work. They have to have the caseworkers and these they're handling a lot of the administrative stuff on the ground. And with this big, beautiful bill, and we've got a wonderful, beautiful bill with us today on our show. I want to make sure we're talking here about Trump's big, beautiful bill, but that is that if it eliminates that funding, we're going to have states that, yes, technically people would qualify for SNAP or for Medicaid or these programs, but there's not going to be any money to administer it.
Right. Yeah.
They're not going to get their card, because the EBT cards, are state based. They're not going to have somebody who can process the application. And it could be absolutely devastating. We just managed to avoid, I think, what could have been some pretty nasty chaos this time around. But as I said, I just kind of saw this as this is a can being kicked down the road. We may be seeing some nasty stuff come this fall. Yeah,
we definitely sure will be. This is, like I said, you just don't. It's not like a light switch. You just don't turn it off and then turn it back on and everything's fine. There's these things that happen. These processes, especially in the states. Right, especially in the state, and then you top that off with now they're having everybody reapply for SNAP to weed out the whatever.
And you've got many of these people who are on SNAP, as I've said, they are elderly, they're sick, they're disabled, and they're children.
Mm-hmm.
And they're just every time they do this stop, start. People are going to fall off by the wayside and are probably not going to be going back on. Some of them are going to die. Some of them will just kind of fade off into the background, or people's lives are being played with here. I am very concerned about the kind of stress that this is going to be creating for a whole lot of people.
Yeah, and it's only funded through next year, and God knows what's going to happen next year too. That's the thing. It's just like all bets are off at this point. He's doing all kinds of crazy shit off book, and it's just people are trying to it's by the time they catch up to him on one thing, he's over here doing something else, and I think that's his plan of this organized chaos type thing.
People get distracted and people feel relieved. Okay, they calm down, they're relieved, and then they're not looking ahead. And in Politico, this is why I wanted to share this article from Politico, because people don't necessarily understand how these programs are administered at the state level.
Yeah. So basically, the only thing really is that federal is the money going into the state. Everything else is organized and administrated on the state level. And a lot of people don't know that. They think, oh, it's all federal. And it's like, well, it's part federal, but this has been a bad year, to say the least, when it comes to that, when it comes to poor people, when it comes to anybody, but especially when it comes to journalists and what we have going on over in the Middle East, of course. Some people don't want the truth to be heard. 2025, a deadly year for journalists. This is where hate and impunity lead. So nearly half, about 43% of journalists slain in the past 12 months were killed in Gaza by Israeli armed forces. In Ukraine, the Russian army continues to target foreign and Ukrainian reporters. Sudan has also emerged as an exceptionally deadly war zone for news professionals. So in an age where propaganda is hyper it's just put out there in mass so much that it's just like you're swimming in bullshit and you're trying to get your head above the top there. So that's why all of these reporters and journalists are getting silenced, because we got to keep up our propaganda, and we can't be having you telling the truth. In Mexico, organized crime groups are responsible for the alarming spike in journalist murders seen in 2025. This year has been the deadliest of the past 3 years, at least, and Mexico is the second most dangerous country in the world for journalists, with 9 killed. The trend has spread as Latin America has become more Mexicanized, accounting for 24% of the world's murdered journalists. Journalists are more at risk within their own countries. Well, that's true here. And we've had a few journalists jailed. Mm-hmm. Only 2 foreign journalists were killed this year. French photojournalist Anthony Lalacan, killed by a Russian drone strike in Ukraine, and Salvadorian journalist Javier Hercules, nice, killed in Honduras, where he had lived for over a decade. All the other murdered journalists reported the news in their own nations. 503 journalists are currently detained around the world. World's largest prison for journalists is still China, with 121. Russia, with 48, now in second place, imprisoning more foreign journalists than any other state. 26 Ukrainians. Myanmar, 47, comes in third. And finally, 1 year after the fall of Bashar al-Assad's regime, many of the reporters arrested or captured under his rule are yet to be found, making Syria the country with the highest number of missing news professionals, over a quarter of the world total. This has been, and particularly with the events in the Middle East, you were seeing that too, with they say like 260 journalists had been killed since 2023, I want to say. And that's the thing, they don't allow any foreign press inside Gaza, right? So the only journalism that you get in Gaza is from the Palestinian journalists, and of course you have your Israeli journalists, but who knows how much truth is in that. But it's very, I don't know. It just seems like an end of days kind of scenario where you're killing all the journalists because you don't want the truth to be put out there, because there's so much truth. They can't hold it back. So they have to take out the truth tellers, the people saying it to them, And,
we look at, even here in the U.S., it was, and this again, I think was during the first Trump administration, or right before it, there was a case in Montana. Was it Montana or Wyoming? I forget, but there was a local candidate, body slammed a reporter, and attacked the reporter. There were, been various protests where in the U.S. where journalists, even with press credentials, valid press credentials, are subjected to harassment, to being manhandled, woman-handled, whoever the agent happens to be. This is happening here in the U.S. as well. It's just not on the scale that we're seeing in some other places. But it is a very frightening thing, and we've been talking about the need, Uncle Warren, for getting people into journalism, getting people to, getting young people to be interested in journalism. That there's an absolute need for non-privileged people to be getting into journalism, and these kind of dangers makes it that much more difficult for the truth to be told.
Yeah. And you're right there. We definitely need more journalists. I think we need to get more journalists in the independent field too, because a lot of these journalists that end up going to like these mainstream media outlets, a lot of times they get swallowed up by the corporate ideology, and who they're supposed to protect, and who they can say and what they can't say about. And that's, as a journalist, I wouldn't want to be put in that position. I'd rather be somebody on YouTube doing the news with just like a few people watching than to get into a situation there where you're just fooling a whole bunch of people, and you can't sleep at night because you actually have a soul, and a soul that you care about.
Well, yeah, and there's also the fact that many journalists are not appropriately compensated. They're not appropriately supported in their work. They are given, impossible deadlines, and that can lead to shoddy reporting. We know that happens. I've got a friend. I hope to get him on the show at some point, but he teaches young journalists, and what he said is that they're expected to go out on their own with their phones and to take the photographs, to take the videos, to edit all that, as well as write things up. And it's not like back in the day. I remember when I was in university watching some of the young stringers who would come out. They were college students themselves, but they would have a camera person with them, and they actually had an editor. And so we've also seen the profession of journalism being dismantled by lack of support and specialization. I think it was, I forget, it may have been the Sun-Times that got rid of their photo editors and was going entirely to, had moved entirely to freelancers. That's not good for the news. No. And I'm hoping, and again, the violence, we've got the dismantling, we've got the issue of that now journalists are expected to have university degrees, possibly even graduate degrees, but they are not getting the support to get those degrees. So they have student loans, which they have to pay back. It's we need more respect for journalists in this country, and we need to make it into a profession that people feel a calling to.
Yeah, and that's the thing with journalism too. It's almost like it is a calling, right? If you go into journalism because you want to make money, you're going into it for the very, very, very worst reason of all. You go into it for the love of informing people and getting the word out. Yes, you'd like to be compensated. And that's the thing. It's like people tend to get compromised when they go to these big places and the more money they make, it seems like the more compromised they tend to be, because there's a lot at stake, especially with their paycheck. If they say the wrong thing, like the truth, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah. And next week, by the way, we do have a guest, Mike Prendergast. He is a guy who was doing his job and decided that he was getting into creating Spotify playlists and wanted to take it eventually to a podcast. And somebody said, no, do it radio. And he is now at Harper College, a community college in the Chicago area, and doing his show. So he's going to be on talking about how he got his show together, try to encourage folks. Hey, this is an opportunity. There are opportunities out there for those of us who have other jobs, but who want to, in this case, he's bringing music to people and music history, which is fantastic. But I'm hoping that people will watch the show and get inspired to do their own stuff.
It's going to be next week.
They will
right
be
here on the U. Finally, or Finley. I still can't get over that pun. Finley today. It is the holidays, and when we say the holidays, Lainey, we're talking about more than one holiday, right? Because it's the holidays. What does it usually start off with? Usually, kind of like your kickoff is Halloween, then you get into Thanksgiving, and you've got Christmas and Hanukkah and Kwanzaa, and you've got all kinds of Muslim holidays and stuff too. But ton of holidays. But one of those holidays, I know it, is Christmas. You've heard of that old tale of how Jesus was actually Santa Claus and comes down your that's the magic, because he could. No, I'm kidding, I made that up. That's an urban myth. Don't listen to me. But listen to me on this, because this is a fun story here. Because the British hotel hosts Christmas tree made from 100,000 balloons. Look at that. Ooh, these are not the balloons. These are just nice people. These are the balloons behind them. Look at this. Look at the little thing here. The globe. Look how delightful. Wouldn't you like to be stuck in there and just bouncing all around all these? They look like grapes, don't they?
They do. It's quite something. I can't even imagine what would it have been like to put that thing together.
Yeah. Especially these little peas down here, the little grapes. I mean, that looks like a lot of little balloons right there. And these look like what are those, cherry tomatoes? And I don't know what these look like. These look like something that don't belong in there.
Christmas ornaments.
So, ooh, and look at that food too. I think this is in Norway. Let's see. There's an actual thing. Hotel. Oh, it's in England. Hotel in England unveiled a unique holiday decoration, a 25-foot tall Christmas tree assembled from 100,000 balloons, not 99 Luft balloons, but 100,000 balloons. The balloon Christmas tree installed outside Moor Hall Hotel in Spa in Sutton Coldfield, Birmingham, consists of 100,000 balloons and a transparent dome to protect the tree's parts from popping or blowing away, or for keeping little kids from going over there and go, "Ooh, grapes! Oh no, it's just air. I was fooled again." Naomi Spencer, a balloon artist and the proprietor of Balloon Color Blending, came up with the idea as a means of raising money for charity. Each balloon can be sponsored for $3.30, while $13.19, that's an interesting number, can purchase a memorial balloon in honor of a lost loved one, and $165 can purchase a branded balloon bauble, if you will, on the tree. This has never been done in the UK before. People don't realize the scale of building a balloon Christmas tree, Spencer told the Birmingham Mall. Sorry. We had a massive team. We had engineers, blowers, giggity, and a design team, she said. We brought together 100,000 I can't read. 100,000 biodegradable balloons, precision engineering, and a bespoke globe to create something magical, and all while supporting vital local charities. Well, that's nice. Good on you, England, with your blown up balloons and stuff like that. Huh? You like that with your balloonies? I don't know. I
like it.
I like it too, but I don't have the patience to do that. That would probably have to be like a whole bunch of people doing like little parts and then doing, that you could do. But if it's just like a few people, that ain't going to happen. You know what I like to do for Christmas? Absolutely nothing. I'm a big fan of doing nothing on Christmas.
Put your feet up.
Yeah. I mean, I did all that stuff back in the day, and I'm just tired. I'm tired. And yeah. So now I'm just like, at Christmas time, it's for the kids. And then I go back to drinking myself silly. So yeah, that's the end of the show today. That's all we got. I want to thank Bill Tilford for coming on.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Bill, for coming on the show. It was great to have you. We're looking forward to next week with our guest. And yeah, we're just going to keep on. And, I want to say to all of you, again, thank you all so much for being a part of and showing up for our shows and supporting us. We really do appreciate it. Thank you for your tips on stories. Trauma Raised Me, she actually was bringing up the Chernobyl thing. I looked into it, and then I kind of went down a rabbit hole with the AI and the nuclear power plants. And oh boy.
Yeah, that's some scary stuff. The AI and nuclear power plants. I mean, we kid with Homer Simpson at the helm at the Springfield power plant, but
now you're gonna get grok.
Yeah, I mean, does it have to have the 3-hair comb over too? Is that part of the deal? So, well, we will be back next week. Same bat time, same bat channel. 11 a.m. Eastern, 8 a.m. Pacific time. I'm going to be off the rest of the week. Been a little bit under the weather, and I have some other things I have to take care of this week. So I'll probably be back next week for my shows, hopefully. Lainey, what's going on with you? What do you got going on?
I'm doing my work. We'll see you all next week. I'm thinking about periodically popping up on the Undercurrent channel to talk about stuff on occasion, just having some fun. If you're not subscribed to the Undercurrent channel, I don't want to be popping up on Extra Bullis, so that's not going to happen. But if you're not subscribed to the Undercurrent channel on YouTube, please do so. We're also on the Rumbly Tumblies, but these will probably be YouTube streams. So if you want to get on there, I put the Linktree in there. That gives you all of our channels where you can connect with us. Also, do consider subscribing to our Substack. It's free, and it's just you get the show notes every week.
Yeah, and it's chock full of good information for you too. We don't do the bullshit he said, she said, crap like that, this drama shit. We try to provide you with information that benefits you, and hopefully helps you with your lives, or at least helps you navigate your life around these bullshit icebergs that are popping up around us that we have to avoid at all costs. So I guess that's going to do it. Lainey, you got any final thoughts before we get out of here?
Folks, support your local newspaper, support your local radio station, support your local TV station, support your local media, because there's a lot of noise out there, and there's a lot of information circling around. It's very easy to get confused. It's very easy to get distracted.
Yeah.
And you can really help yourselves and your neighbors out by supporting local media.
There you go. Stay frosty and keep your critical thinking skills nice and Ginzu sharp. That's going to be it for us. We will see you again next week. Have a great week, everybody. Take care. Peace.
Take care.